The former U.S. president's final days in office had been wrought in chaos. Mr. Trump refused to concede after President Joe Biden won the 2020 election and even filed numerous lawsuits on election fraud. Mr. Trump is now under investigation for his role in the Capitol attack, which saw his supporters storm the U.S. Capitol to disrupt a joint session of Congress where the Electoral College vote was to be verified. Now, for some analysis on Trump's political future, Robert Daly joins us live from Singapore. He's the director of Kissinger Institute on China and the United States at the Wilson Center. Now, Robert, we're hearing a lot of political finger-pointing now after the Republican red wave failed to materialize. What do you make of the chances of Donald Trump winning the Republican nomination?
Well, he faces a formidable rival in Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. And right now, polling of Republican voters show that DeSantis is ahead of Trump by about 9 points. Now, 2024 is a long ways away. I think what we'll see initially is a battle within the Republican Party to decide what direction it wants to take. And only after that is settled, and that could take up to a year, we don't know, will we begin to see Trump running against the Democrats.
How do you think, or why the poor showing at the midterms among Republicans, and how will that affect Donald Trump's bid, especially with many of the candidates that he endorsed, they didn't fare very well?
Well, Donald Trump retains a quite strong base among Republican voters. Again, the polling versus DeSantis shows him with about 39% support. But there's also a consensus within the Republican Party that Trump this time backed a lot of very poor candidates. In Arizona, in Georgia, in Pennsylvania, and in other states, he backed people who were going to claim that the previous election was stolen. There is no evidence of that. It's a false claim. And he backed people with little political experience. And those people have now been rejected. Does that indicate that they would reject Trump as well? Or was this just a symptom of the midterm elections? We don't know. But he clearly doesn't have quite the purchase that he had with the Republicans several years ago.
Now, zooming in on the poor showing at the midterms, you mentioned poor candidates that he backed, but could there also be wider issues that perhaps Republican candidates are not addressing? Would you say that there's been a shift in voter sentiment when it comes to what they're looking for in a candidate?
Well, the Republicans ran on the issues of inflation. They ran against crime and immigration. And those, again, didn't seem to have quite the power that they had for Donald Trump when he ran in 2016, although these are issues he continues to raise now as he looks forward. Clearly, a lot of people seem to have Trump fatigue. They're simply tired of the constant chaos. And I think that the Republicans paid a heavier price in this election for for Roe versus Wade, for overturning the decision which made abortion legal in the United States. That appears to have hurt Republican chances, even in red states.
And based on that also, we see Republican members like Vice President Mike Pence, who has really come out very strongly to criticize Trump, especially in the new book that he's just published, damning criticism of the president. Also, other Republicans are stating they have better choices. You've mentioned Ron DeSantis as a key figure that might go forward in the elections. Are there others that Republican Party might back? And how much support does Trump still have within the party?
Well, we know that there are many senators as well as Republican governors who might throw their hats in the ring. In addition to Ron DeSantis, the Republican governor of Maryland, he just completed his second term, Larry Hogan, very much a moderate who opposed Trump from the beginning, is thinking of running. More traditional Republicans like the governor of New Hampshire, Chris Sununu, very much. And then in the Senate, we have the usual folks, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, Tom Cotton of Arkansas, Josh Hawley of Missouri, all of whom might throw their hats in the ring, but most of whom probably don't want to run against Donald Trump. So they may see how things go between Trump and DeSantis now and hold on to see whether Trump is going to be the favored candidate. If he isn't, if DeSantis does well, you can expect to see more Republicans also getting into the competition.
And speaking of that competition, can we possibly see a return to power for the Republicans in the future based on what we're seeing in this midterm election result?
Sure. The midterm is not a great predictor of where we will be 2 years from now. That's a long time in politics. We may be heading into a global recession. We don't know where the American economy is right now. Inflation has lessened a little bit recently, but that doesn't necessarily mean that inflation will continue to decrease. many Americans are concerned about crime. They are concerned about immigration. So Biden will have a strong record to run on. America faces, continued deep divisions politically across the country, and we face real problems both domestically and internationally. So it's really much too soon for any meaningful prediction.
Robert, thank you so much for your insights. That was Robert Daly from Kissinger Institute on China and the United States at the Wilson Center.